Mr. Castor, what's direct evidence?
When a witness personally observes a fact and testifies to it.
And what's hearsay evidence?
Well, I think out-of-court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted is something that you learn in law school.
Right, and under the federal rules of evidence adopted by most states, hearsay is inadmissible unless the testimony falls under a defined exception. Is that right?
That's right. There's about 23, plus the residual exception.
And I believe you were present when every witness testified, including Mr. Sondland, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a yes?
Yes.
And much of the Democrats' report and impeachment narrative is based on the Sondland testimony. Is that a fair characterization?
A lot of it is, yes.
How many times Mr. Sondland mentioned in the Intel Committee's report?
Like I said, I did a search, just a Control F, and the name Sondland shows up 611 times.
Yeah, and just to refresh your mind, Sondland himself told the world that basically nobody else on the planet told him that Donald Trump was trying to tie aid to investigations. In fact, he also said everything that he'd been testifying to is simply his presumptions. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so when we consider what a presumption is, it's not direct, it's not circumstantial, it's not even hearsay. In fact, we typically, when we're trying a case, we consider it as speculation. Is that right?
That's right.
Do courts allow speculation in?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not reliable.
It's inherently unreliable. So, can you name any Democrat witness who asserted that he or she had direct evidence of those 17 that we've been hearing, that we heard from?
We had some direct evidence on certain things. We had some direct evidence on the May 23rd meeting, and Sondland gave some direct evidence, but a lot of what we've obtained has been circumstantial.
How about with regard to personal knowledge of the quid pro quo allegation?
Well, we have not gotten to the bottom of that from a direct evidence standpoint.
How about tying aid to investigations?
That's correct, too.
How about political motives in asking for investigations?
The facts surrounding that are ambiguous.
In the non-legalistic world, when we talk about speculation, we typically use words like gossip, rumor, innuendo. Is that right?
Yep.
And isn't it true that the only direct evidence that we have is that Ukraine received the aid without giving anything in return? President Zelensky has repeatedly stated no pressure, no problem with a phone call in the relationship with Mr. Trump, and that the president had a legitimate concern about Ukraine corruption.
He did, and the burden sharing of European allies.
So much has been made about the alleged desire for an announcement of an investigation. But again, there is no direct evidence that supports the allegation that President Trump wanted merely the announcement of an investigation.
But like I said, there's 8 lines in the call transcript that go to what President Trump said about the investigations. 8 lines.
And everything else is hearsay, innuendo, rumor, gossip, right?
It's inconclusive, certainly.
Yeah. So when we get into this event today, in the process, we start talking about the process, were you surprised to see Mr. Burke get out of his chair, move to the seat, and sit down next to the chairman and start asking you questions?
I don't know if I was surprised or not.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I was, and it looks like Mr. Burke has been disappeared. And so that's one of the outrageous things about this process, and it's been outrageous from start to finish. We've seen prejudice and bias against the president from start to finish. We have the lion's share, almost 2/3 of the members of the Democrats have already voted to impeach at least once, and that's before anything with regard to this July 25th telephone conversation ever took place. And we're left with a constant view that as on November 9th, 2016, Representative Green from Texas wanted to begin impeachment proceedings at that point. Is that correct?
Yes.
January 20th, 2017, Washington Post, headline, "Let the impeachment begin." Is that correct?
Yes.
10 days later, Mr. Zaid, who is the attorney for the whistleblower, tweeted out, "Let the impeachment begin, let the coup begin, and victory to the lawyers." Is that right?
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah. We had people who on this committee came out today and said that they went on TV and said, "We wanted to start impeachment earlier, but the speaker held us back." Did you see that?
I haven't seen that, no.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be news reports today.
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised about that, though, would you?
No.
No, nobody should be surprised about that, because this is a sham hearing. 3 years that they've been trying to remove this president, and this is the culmination of a predetermined outcome. That's where we are today. And so with that, we bring it back to those same points. No pressure, no conditionality, and all of the aid, meetings, calls were received by the Ukrainians. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Liu. Thank you, Chairman Nadler.